They said he could have anyone he wanted, but he chose me, not because he loved me, but because I was easy to hide. He made me feel like a secret worth keeping, and I believed him. I watched him build his empire lie by lie with my trust as his foundation. And when he was done using me, he tossed me aside, and like the truth, he was too afraid to face. But here's the thing about secrets. They don't stay buried forever. When they finally surface, they destroy everything built on the lie. And when I returned, I didn't come back for him. I came back for justice. But before I continue, make sure you're subscribed to the Hard Revenge channel and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. We love to see how far our stories travel. The city lights flickered outside the cafe window as Maya sat alone, her fingers tracing the rim of her coffee cup. It was a quiet evening, yet her heart raced, because she knew he would walk in any moment. And then he did, Daniel. His suit perfectly pressed, his smile calculated, the kind of man who made the world stop when he entered a room. He wasn't supposed to notice her, but his eyes found her instantly, as if he had been searching for her all along. That night, under the golden glow of the cafe lights, he said her name like a secret. Maya. She didn't know it then, but that moment would be the start of her undoing. Their connection was magnetic, dangerous even. Daniel wasn't single. Everyone in the office whispered about his wife, a beautiful socialite who never appeared in person, only in glossy magazine pages. Yet Daniel made Maya feel seen in ways no one else ever had. Late-night messages turned into secret meetings, and stolen glances became silent promises. Maya's friends warned her, but she brushed them off with a trembling smile. She was in too deep. Each time Daniel whispered, "No one can know about us," she believed it was love. But deep down, she wondered. If it was real, why did it have to be hidden in the dark? One evening, Daniel brought her to a hotel room overlooking the rain-soaked streets. The storm outside mirrored the one inside her, passion mixed with fear. He kissed her forehead and said softly, "You're my escape, Maya, my secret." The words sounded beautiful at first, but they echoed like a warning. She wanted to ask, "And what am I when the secret ends?" But her voice refused to come out. As she lay beside him, the sound of rain tapping the glass grew louder, almost accusing. That night, for the first time, she realized, secrets are only beautiful until they begin to rot. Morning sunlight crept through the curtains, landing on Daniel's half-open phone. Maya blinked awake and reached for her clothes when she noticed the glowing screen. A message preview appeared. Just a name, Laura. Her heartbeat stuttered. The text beneath it read, "She's starting to ask questions. Be careful." Maya froze. Who was she? And what questions? Before she could open the full message, Daniel stirred beside her, his voice rough with sleep. "Don't touch that," he said sharply, grabbing the phone. His eyes, once warm, now looked like polished glass. Maya forced a shaky smile, pretending not to care, but her mind spun. That name, Laura. It sounded too familiar. Throughout the day, Daniel was distant. His laughter felt practiced, his touch mechanical. They met again that evening at the cafe, where he seemed to study every face around them before speaking. "Maya," he said, leaning close, "our meetings need to stop for a while. It's not safe right now." She tried to sound calm, but her throat tightened. "Not safe from what, Daniel?" He looked out the window, rain beginning to fall once more, then muttered, "Just trust me." He squeezed her hand briefly, then left, leaving behind the faint scent of his cologne and 100 unspoken questions. Maya sat there long after he was gone, watching raindrops chase each other down the glass. Something in her gut whispered, this wasn't about safety. It was about secrets getting too close to the surface. That night, sleep refused to come. Maya's mind replayed the message, the look in his eyes, the sudden coldness in his tone. Unable to resist, she searched Daniel's name online, scrolling through pages of articles and interviews. He was a rising executive, admired and powerful, and married to Laura Bennett, a name she now recognized. A photo appeared, Daniel and Laura smiling at a charity gala. Perfect, polished. The same night he had told Maya he was working late. Her stomach churned. Everything was a lie. She slammed her laptop shut, trembling. The sound echoed in her empty apartment like thunder. And in that silence, Maya whispered to herself, "No more secrets." Segment 2. The Hidden Messages. Morning sunlight crept through the curtains, landing on Daniel's half-open phone. Maya blinked awake and reached for her clothes when she noticed the glowing screen. A message preview appeared. Just a name, Laura. Her heartbeat stuttered. The text beneath it read, "She's starting to ask questions. Be careful." Maya froze. Who was she? And what questions? Before she could open the full message, Daniel stirred beside her, his voice rough with sleep. "Don't touch that," he said sharply, grabbing the phone. His eyes, once warm, now looked like polished glass. Maya forced a shaky smile, pretending not to care, but her mind spun. That name, Laura. It sounded too familiar. Throughout the day, Daniel was distant. His laughter felt practiced, his touch mechanical. They met again that evening at the cafe, where he seemed to study every face around them before speaking. "Maya," he said, leaning close, "our meetings need to stop for a while. It's not safe right now." She tried to sound calm, but her throat tightened. "Not safe from what, Daniel?" He looked out the window, rain beginning to fall once more, then muttered, "Just trust me." He squeezed her hand briefly, then left, leaving behind the faint scent of his cologne and 100 unspoken questions. Maya sat there long after he was gone, watching raindrops chase each other down the glass. Something in her gut whispered, this wasn't about safety. It was about secrets getting too close to the surface. That night, sleep refused to come. Maya's mind replayed the message, the look in his eyes, the sudden coldness in his tone. Unable to resist, she searched Daniel's name online, scrolling through pages of articles and interviews. He was a rising executive, admired and powerful, and married to Laura Bennett, a name she now recognized. A photo appeared, Daniel and Laura smiling at a charity gala. Perfect, polished. The same night he had told Maya he was working late. Her stomach churned. Everything was a lie. She slammed her laptop shut, trembling. The sound echoed in her empty apartment like thunder. And in that silence, Maya whispered to herself, "No more secrets." Claire was glowing. Her social media painted the illusion of a perfect life. Photos with Daniel, captions filled with false sweetness, fake smiles that made Ava's stomach twist. But Ava didn't block her. She watched silently, like a storm waiting beyond the horizon. Then one day, she commented under one of Claire's posts. Just one line. "Funny how people change when they get what they wanted." It wasn't angry, wasn't loud, just quiet enough to make people curious. By evening, messages flooded Claire's inbox, whispers from mutual friends asking what Ava meant. And for the first time, Claire looked uneasy. Her perfect mask didn't crack, not yet. But a tiny line appeared at the corner, invisible to everyone except Ava. And that was enough. A few days later, Claire invited Ava to a small get-together. "To clear the air," she'd said. Ava accepted, smiling, knowing the invitation wasn't about peace. It was about control. When Ava arrived, the laughter faded. Eyes turned. Claire was at the center, radiant and smug. "Ava, you came!" she said, hugging her too tightly, her perfume thick and suffocating. Ava smiled. "I wouldn't miss it." Her tone soft, but her eyes cold, like glass reflecting fire. As the evening went on, Ava watched how Claire charmed the crowd, how every word, every laugh was carefully measured to keep her image intact. But Ava wasn't here to play along. She was here to watch her unravel. When Claire reached for her drink, she found a note beneath it, folded neatly, written in Ava's handwriting. It read, "Secrets have a way of slipping out when you least expect it." And for the rest of the night, Claire couldn't stop glancing around, her smile twitching every time she caught Ava's calm, unreadable stare. After that night, the shift began, slowly, quietly. Daniel started pulling away, growing distant from Claire without knowing why. Rumors spread that maybe she wasn't as innocent as she claimed, that maybe she'd gone too far. Claire tried to laugh it off, but the anxiety was visible now. The late-night calls to Daniel, the sleepless eyes behind heavy makeup. Ava, meanwhile, said nothing. She just kept living, smiling, posting photos of her new beginnings, looking peaceful. But the peace was part of the plan, because nothing unsettles a guilty person more than the silence of the one they hurt. One evening, Claire sent a message. "Ava, can we talk?" Ava looked at it for a long time, then simply replied, "About what?" The dots blinked for a while and then stopped. Ava smiled faintly and whispered, "You feel it now, don't you? The fear." Claire woke up before dawn, drenched in sweat, her sheets twisted like ropes around her legs. She'd dreamt of Ava again, of that night, the broken phone on the floor, the look in Ava's eyes. Even now, she could still hear the echo of that silence, the kind that screams louder than words. Daniel stirred beside her, half asleep, unaware of the panic behind her calm breathing. She got up and looked at herself in the mirror. Her reflection looked tired, haunted, her smile not fitting her face anymore. She picked up her phone, scrolling through her messages, hoping for something normal. But instead she froze. A new message, from an unknown number. It read, "Funny how karma looks like your own reflection, doesn't it?" Her hands trembled, the phone nearly slipping from her grip. She wanted to believe it was a prank. But deep down, she knew whose voice those words carried. That day, everything felt different. The air heavier, the people quieter. At work, whispers followed Claire like shadows, subtle, sharp, slicing through her carefully built image. She caught two co-workers muttering by the coffee machine. "Did you hear? About her and Ava's ex?" Claire tried to smile, to walk past like she didn't care, but her chest felt like it was caving in. In the elevator mirror, she thought she saw movement behind her, a flicker of black hair, familiar eyes. But when she turned, no one was there. She pressed the emergency stop button by accident, breathing hard, trying to steady herself. "Get a grip," she whispered, forcing a laugh. But even her laugh sounded foreign now, brittle, like glass ready to break. Somewhere deep inside, she started to wonder, was Ava really gone from her life? Or was she still there, just watching quietly from the dark? That night, Claire called Daniel. Her voice was trembling. "Someone's sending me messages," she said. "Weird ones?" Daniel sounded irritated. "You're overreacting again. Maybe it's just your guilt talking." The line went quiet after that. Claire froze. "What do you mean?" she whispered. But Daniel didn't answer. He sighed and hung up. Claire sat in the dark for a long time, staring at the phone in her hand, the only light in her apartment now flickering from its cold screen. Then another message arrived. This time, it wasn't words. It was a picture. A photo of her and Daniel from months ago laughing together, with a faint reflection of Ava visible in the window behind them. Claire's heart stopped. That picture was taken by Ava, before she knew about the betrayal. And now it had come back, like a ghost carrying proof of its own death. The phone slipped from her fingers. For the first time, Claire whispered into the empty room, "What have I done?" Claire's apartment had never felt this quiet. Even the ticking clock seemed louder now, every second echoing like a heartbeat she couldn't calm. She kept the curtains drawn, afraid of the reflection that waited in the glass, the one that sometimes seemed to smile back when she didn't. When her phone buzzed again, she jumped. Another unknown message. This time it read, "How does it feel, Claire, to live in the silence you gave me?" Her throat went dry. She tried to block the number, but before she could, another message appeared. "You can't block karma." A cold shiver ran down her spine. She turned toward the window. Outside, the city lights blurred in the fog, and for just a heartbeat, she thought she saw a woman standing across the street, watching. Ava's silhouette, still, calm, and silent. But when Claire blinked, she was gone. Days passed in fragments. Claire started avoiding mirrors, turning her phone face down, double-checking her locks every night. Daniel noticed her fear, but his patience was running thin. "You need help," he snapped one evening. "This obsession with Ava, it's not healthy." Claire wanted to scream that it wasn't obsession, that something real was happening, but her voice failed her. Instead, she stared at her reflection in the window again. Behind her, Daniel's reflection appeared too, but the reflection didn't match his movement. For a split second, she saw something impossible. Daniel's reflection turned its head toward her while the real Daniel didn't move at all. Her breath hitched. The mug in her hand fell and shattered on the floor. Daniel turned. "What's wrong?" But Claire couldn't speak, because for that brief, impossible moment, she swore she saw Ava's face smiling faintly in the glass beside hers. That night, Claire tried to sleep, but the silence pressed on her chest like a weight. She turned on the bedside lamp, grabbed her phone, and opened her messages again. All the previous texts had vanished, every one of them. But now a new photo had appeared, blurry, taken from across the street. It was her apartment window. In the reflection, she could see herself, sitting exactly as she was now. She dropped the phone, her breath shallow. She didn't know if it was Ava or someone else, but someone was watching. Then, from the darkness of her mirror, faint letters began to appear, drawn in fog, as if by an unseen hand. They formed one word: remember. Claire screamed, stumbling back, knocking over the lamp, plunging the room into darkness. And in that split second before the light died, she saw it, her own reflection, smiling when she wasn't. It wasn't Ava haunting her anymore. It was her own guilt, wearing Ava's face. It happened on a Tuesday, ordinary, bright, cruelly peaceful. Claire was in a cafe, trying to convince herself she was fine, that all the strange events were just stress. She reached for her cup and froze. Across from her, sitting at the far end of the cafe, was Ava, alive, calm, smiling faintly as if nothing had ever happened. Their eyes met, and time slowed. The chatter around them faded into a hum. Claire's hand trembled. She whispered, almost to herself, "You can't be here." But Ava simply raised her cup slightly like a quiet toast and mouthed a single word: "Miss me?" Then she stood up and walked out before Claire could move, leaving her with a heart that couldn't decide whether to stop or race. That night, Claire couldn't shake the image of Ava's calm face. She checked online. No record of Ava, no photos, nothing new. It was as if she had never existed. Then a soft knock echoed from her door. 3 slow taps. She approached hesitantly, pressed her ear against the wood. Silence. But when she peered through the peephole, there was a single folded note on the floor. She opened it with trembling fingers. Inside was written, "You took everything from me. Now I'll take your piece." No signature. No footsteps. Just the faint scent of jasmine, Ava's perfume, the one Claire hadn't smelled in years. Her knees weakened as the perfume lingered, as if the air itself remembered what she'd done. In the following days, Ava's presence became impossible to ignore, a shadow in the corner of her vision, a familiar figure reflected in shop windows. Daniel dismissed it all, until one evening when Claire received an envelope in the mail. Inside were photographs, recent ones, of her and Daniel sleeping. The last photo made her scream. It showed Ava standing at the foot of their bed, eyes open, staring straight at the camera. But Daniel couldn't find any trace of who delivered it. That night, Claire sat in the dark, clutching the photos, whispering, "Why are you doing this to me?" From somewhere deep in the apartment, a voice whispered back, soft, broken, and chillingly familiar. "Because you taught me how to hurt in silence." The lights flickered, and for a brief moment, she saw Ava standing behind her reflection again. Not angry, just watching, waiting. The next morning, Claire woke to the sound of dripping water. At first, she thought it was from the bathroom tap. But when she entered, the sink was dried and the sound was coming from the mirror. Tiny droplets streaked down the glass like tears. Her reflection stared back, pale and trembling, but something felt off. Her reflection's lips were moving, whispering words she couldn't hear. She leaned closer. The voice grew clearer, almost echoing from inside the glass. "You used to laugh when I cried." Claire stumbled backward, hitting the wall. The mirror went still, and no water, no whisper, only her frightened reflection. When she looked again, there was a faint handprint on the inside of the mirror, Ava's handprint, the same ring she used to wear glinting faintly in the glass. Claire whispered, What do you want from me? The mirror stayed silent, but her reflection smiled. That night, Claire dreamed of a place drenched in silver light, an empty hallway lined with mirrors on both sides. Each reflection showed her doing something cruel, laughing at Ava, ignoring her pain, turning away when she cried. A voice echoed softly, "Now you see what I saw." When Claire woke up, her face was wet, not from sweat, but from tears she didn't remember crying. Daniel found her staring at the wall, whispering, "I didn't mean to hurt her." He tried to hold her, but she flinched, because behind him, she saw Ava's face staring from the dark corner of the room. When Daniel turned to look, there was nothing there. "Claire," he said, trying to sound calm, "you need help." But Claire only whispered, "Help won't save me." "She's already here." The following evening, Claire covered every mirror in the house. She couldn't stand the thought of Ava watching her from the other side. But that night, when she went to wash her hands, she noticed one mirror she'd missed, the small round one on the bathroom wall. It was fogged over, but she could see movement inside it. Her reflection was gone. In its place stood Ava, calm, expressionless, eyes filled with quiet fury. Claire screamed and swung her hand against the glass. The mirror shattered into countless fragments, slicing her palm. Blood dripped over the sink, and onto the broken shards. In the reflection of those tiny shards, she saw Ava's face again, multiplied 100 times, each one whispering the same word, "Guilty." And then the lights went out. The night after the mirror shattered, Claire couldn't sleep. The house, once her sanctuary, now felt alive, breathing, listening. Every creak sounded like a sigh. Every whisper of wind through the cracks carried her name. She walked barefoot down the hallway, clutching her phone's flashlight. The beam flickered weakly, dancing across the peeling wallpaper. Then she heard it, a faint laughter, muffled and soft, coming from inside the walls. Ava's laughter. Claire pressed her ear against the plaster. The voice on the other side whispered, "You remember this place, don't you?" Her throat tightened. She tore at the wallpaper, her fingers trembling, until bits of it came off. Beneath it, in faded ink, were words scratched into the wood. "You said you'd never leave me." Her breath caught. She stumbled back, heart racing as the laughter echoed again, louder now, as if the house itself was mocking her. And then a low hum began from somewhere beneath the floorboards. Claire ran to the living room and turned on every light. But the bulbs began to flicker, one by one, then went out completely, drowning the house in darkness. Only the faint orange glow from the street lamp outside slipped through the window blinds. She stood still, clutching her arms, listening. The hum beneath the floor grew louder, like a heartbeat buried deep inside the house. Ava's voice whispered through the vents. "I lived here too, remember? You made me feel invisible. But I never really left." The front door slammed shut behind her, hard enough to shake the frames on the wall. Claire screamed, running to open it, but the lock wouldn't budge. The door handle twisted on its own. In the darkness, a single candle on the dining table flickered to life by itself. And when she looked at it, she saw something scrawled on the wall behind the flame, in what looked like dried blood. "You can't burn guilt away." The candle flame danced higher, lighting up her terrified face. By midnight, the air inside felt suffocating, thick, heavy, and cold. Claire tried calling Daniel, but her phone screen kept glitching. Every time she tried to dial, the letters rearranged themselves into one name, Ava. Then came the sound, heavy footsteps from the upstairs hallway. She froze. No one else was supposed to be there. Slowly, she looked up the staircase where a faint shadow moved and pacing back and forth. The floorboards groaned as if under real weight. Then, from the darkness above, a soft voice said, "I remember every word you said when you left me." Claire backed away, whispering, "Please, stop!" The voice answered calmly, "Why should I?" "You didn't." Suddenly, every light in the house flickered back on at once. revealing dozens of handprints smeared across the walls, leading down the hall and into the basement door. The doorknob began to turn on its own, and from the basement, something started climbing up. The basement door rattled as if something, or someone, was trapped on the other side. Claire stood frozen in the hallway, her heart pounding so hard she could hear it echo through the silence. The air was colder now, each breath visible like smoke. The door creaked open an inch on its own. She whispered, "No." Not again. But her feet moved anyway, as though pulled by an invisible force. The staircase descended into complete blackness. She flicked the light switch. Nothing. So she grabbed a candle from the dining table and stepped down, each step groaning under her weight. The deeper she went, the stronger the smell became, a mix of damp earth, rust, and something faintly metallic. Halfway down, she heard a soft sob, one she hadn't heard in years. Ava's sob. And in that moment, Claire remembered the last time she'd been in this basement. The night everything changed. The candlelight trembled as Claire reached the bottom. The room looked exactly as she'd left it. Boxes stacked against the walls, old furniture covered in white sheets. But now something was different. The center of the floor, where the cement had cracked years ago, looked freshly disturbed. She kneeled down, running her fingers across the uneven ground. Her hand brushed against something sharp, the corner of a small metallic locket, half buried in dust. When she wiped it clean, she gasped. It was Ava's. The same one she'd taken after their last fight, thinking Ava would never notice. As she held it, the candle flickered violently, and the faint outline of a woman appeared behind her in the reflection of the metal. Claire turned, but there was no one there, only the whisper of fabric and the smell of lavender. Then came the voice, soft and near her ear. "You kept my heart and buried my name." The candle went out. Darkness swallowed the room. Claire dropped the locket, her shaking hands fumbling for the phone light. When it finally lit, the beam landed on the far wall, where faint writing had appeared in chalky, ghostly white letters. "Tell them what you did." Her throat tightened. "I didn't mean to hurt you," she whispered. "You made me feel small, invisible. I just wanted to be free." The air around her shifted, cold, heavy, almost suffocating. Then slowly, from the shadows, Ava's figure began to take form. Pale, silent, eyes reflecting the candlelight like glass. "You wanted to be free," Ava said softly, "and now you are. But I'm not." The ground trembled beneath them, and the wall behind Claire cracked open, revealing a hollow space. Inside it, an old photograph of the two of them, torn in half. Claire fell to her knees, crying, "I didn't kill you." "I swear I didn't." Ava's voice replied like a whisper of wind. "No, Claire, you just watched me die." And as Claire lifted her head, Ava was gone. But the candle relit itself, and beside it lay a key, one that hadn't been there before. The key to the room upstairs, the room Ava once called her own. Claire climbed the staircase slowly, the old key cold and heavy in her hand. The air on the upper floor felt different, thick with dust and the scent of forgotten perfume. At the end of the hallway stood the white door, slightly ajar, its paint peeling like dry skin. For years, she had locked it and told herself it was just another room. But tonight it felt alive, waiting. Each step creaked like a whisper under her feet. She reached for the doorknob, her fingers trembling. The moment she touched it, a chill ran up her spine, and for a second, she heard the faint sound of Ava's humming, the same tune she used to sing while painting near the window. Claire pushed the door open. The smell of roses hit her immediately, Ava's favorite scent, though no flowers had been there for years. Inside, the air was still, but something in the shadows shifted like breath. And on the far wall, the portrait Ava had painted of them together still hung, but one face had been scratched out. Claire stepped closer, her candlelight trembling. The painting used to be beautiful. Two women sitting side by side, their hands almost touching. Now Ava's face was intact, but Claire's was ripped, clawed through with jagged lines. She whispered, "You hated me even after." But before she could finish, her reflection in the glass frame began to move, even though she hadn't. It smiled. And then the smile vanished. replaced by Ava's reflection instead. Claire stumbled back, her heart racing. From behind her, the wardrobe creaked open on its own. Inside hung Ava's old clothes, untouched, still smelling faintly of lavender and paint. Pinned on the wall behind them was a single piece of paper, a letter Ava had never sent. The first line read, "If she lies about me again, I'll have nothing left but my silence." Claire's eyes filled with tears. She could almost hear Ava's voice reading the words out loud. And as she turned toward the mirror, Ava stood behind her reflection, smiling faintly, tears in her eyes. Claire faced the mirror fully now, her breath unsteady. The glass shimmered faintly, rippling like water. Ava's reflection didn't move when Claire did. It just stared at her, unblinking, calm. "You're not real," Claire whispered. Ava tilted her head. "Neither was your love." The air grew colder. Claire's tears froze against her cheeks. "You used me too," she said quietly. "You knew how I felt and you played with me." Ava's expression darkened, but there was sorrow in it. "Maybe I did, but I never left you when you broke." Suddenly, the mirror began to crack, lines spidering outward from where Ava's reflection stood. With every word Claire spoke, the cracks grew deeper, until one final sentence left her lips. "I wish I could undo what I did." The glass shattered completely, sending shards across the room. And when the silence settled, Claire realized. The portrait on the wall now showed only her, sitting alone. The other half of the canvas, Ava's side, had vanished. But in its place, faintly, was written in Ava's handwriting, "Now you finally see." The sound of glass breaking echoed through the entire house, like a gunshot swallowed by silence. Claire fell to her knees, clutching her head as the shards scattered across the floor, each one catching her reflection, hundreds of tiny versions of her face, all twisted, all watching. Her candle had gone out, but the room glowed faintly on its own, lit by the pale blue shimmer of the broken mirror. And then, from inside those shards, she saw movement, Ava's reflection still alive within them, shifting from piece to piece like a living memory. "Stop it!" Claire screamed, hurling a shard across the room. But another one lit up, whispering, "You can't kill what you created." She backed into the wall, gasping for air, as her own reflection in the largest shard began to smile, even though she wasn't. The voice that came from it was her own, but colder. "You didn't just destroy her, Claire. You became her." And then, every shard began to vibrate, rising slowly off the ground, hovering in the air like silver tears. A low hum filled the room, vibrating through the floorboards and into her bones. Claire covered her ears, but the sound wasn't from outside. It was coming from within her head. The shards began to whisper, not in one voice, but in many. Each one replayed a memory. Her arguments with Ava, the things she said to break her spirit, the moment she turned her back when Ava begged her not to leave. She tried to speak, but the whispers grew louder, twisting her words back at her. "You called me pathetic. You said I'd never matter. You promised you'd come back." Claire screamed until her throat went raw, but the voices drowned her out. Her tears hit the floor, mixing with the glittering glass. The room pulsed, almost breathing, and from the corner, Ava's faint outline began to form again, her face emotionless, her eyes black like spilled ink. And then she said softly, "Do you understand me now?" The whispers stopped. Only Claire's broken sobs filled the room. Claire stood in silence, trembling, surrounded by floating glass and fading echoes. She took one step forward, and all the shards fell at once, crashing to the floor like rain. For a moment, everything was still. The air was heavy with dust and regret. Then the room began to bleed light, thin white cracks of brightness seeping from the walls as if the house itself was breaking apart. She stumbled toward the door, but when she reached it, it was gone, replaced by a mirror again, perfect and whole. Inside it stood Ava, alive, calm, unbroken. Claire touched the glass, whispering, "What do you want from me?" Ava's expression softened, almost sad. "Not revenge," she said. "Recognition." And then the mirror rippled like water and swallowed Claire's hand whole. Before she could pull away, it pulled her in completely. The last sound that filled the room was her scream, fading into silence as the mirror returned to still glass. The house once again was quiet, but if you looked closely into the reflection, a second face stared back. When Claire opened her eyes, everything was upside down. The house around her looked familiar, yet wrong. Colors muted, light bending strangely through the air like she was underwater. The walls shimmered faintly, reflecting her every move, but the reflections didn't quite match. Sometimes they blinked a second too late. Sometimes they smiled when she didn't. The silence was thick, broken only by the faint ticking of a clock that didn't exist. She whispered, "Where am I?" And then Ava's voice answered, soft, echoing from everywhere at once. "Inside what you made." Claire turned, searching, but saw only mirrors, endless mirrors, all showing different versions of herself, crying, angry, desperate, laughing. Each version mouthed something she couldn't hear, until one reflection stepped out of the glass. It was Ava, except this Ava wasn't ghostly anymore. She was whole, real, breathing, and her eyes held both warmth and sorrow as she said, "Welcome home." Claire backed away, her reflection following every move like a shadow that refused to separate. The air in the room began to hum with faint whispers, phrases she knew too well. "You'll never be enough." "Don't tell anyone what I did." "She deserved it." Each whisper was something Claire herself had said in anger, fear, or guilt. The walls rippled with her memories, Ava sitting on the porch painting quietly. Their last argument, the night Ava walked away crying. "I didn't kill you." Claire screamed, tears falling fast. Ava looked at her, eyes calm. "No," she said, "but you let the world think I broke myself. You buried the truth under your silence." The mirrors around them flashed to life, showing newspaper clippings, photos, posts, all of them blaming Ava for her own downfall. Claire fell to her knees, shaking. "I just wanted to move on." "And so you did," Ava replied, "while I stayed here, forgotten." The reflection of Claire in one mirror began to smile, twisted and cruel, whispering, "She loved your pain." The glass around them began to crack. The floor beneath Claire trembled, fragments of light breaking through the cracks like veins of silver. Ava knelt in front of her, the glow flickering in her eyes. "You can end it," she said, "but only if you speak it. Tell them what you did." Claire's lips trembled. "They'll destroy me." Ava smiled faintly. "Maybe, but that's the only way I can rest." Around them, the mirrors began to collapse inward, shattering into spirals of glass and memory. Claire could see flashes, herself lying, smiling for the cameras, pretending to mourn Ava's absence. The ground split open, revealing a pool of dark liquid, like a mirror made of ink. Ava reached out her hand. "The truth or the silence, Claire? You choose." Claire hesitated, staring into the dark. Her reflection reached out from below, eyes pleading. Then she took Ava's hand. The mirror world erupted in a blinding white light that swallowed everything. And as the light faded, Ava whispered one last time, almost tenderly, "Now you can finally feel." Claire woke up gasping, her hands clawing at the air as if still drowning in that world of mirrors. The floor beneath her was cold wood, her living room. The morning light streamed through the curtains, golden and soft, but it felt wrong, too still, too bright. Her reflection in the nearby window stared back at her, eyes hollow, a faint trace of glass dust clinging to her skin. "Was it real?" she whispered, her voice trembling. But then she saw it. On the coffee table lay Ava's necklace. The same one she had seen in the mirror world, cracked in half, one side glimmering faintly like it had absorbed the light from another dimension. Claire reached out and touched it, and a faint echo filled the room. Ava's laughter, brief but clear, like a memory played through broken speakers. Her breath caught. The air smelled faintly of rain and burnt wood. And then her phone vibrated. One unread message blinked on the screen. "They know." By afternoon, Claire's world was unraveling. Every news channel, every screen she turned to was flashing Ava's face, her photos, her paintings, her voice from old recordings. Someone had leaked the old footage, the argument between them, the evidence of Claire's manipulation, the silenced truth about what really happened that night. Claire stared at the TV, her reflection trembling in the glass of the screen. The news anchor's voice was calm, almost cruel in its composure. After years of speculation surrounding Ava Morgan's mysterious disappearance, new recordings suggest she was driven to it by psychological abuse from close friends. Claire's name followed, repeated again and again, her reputation burning before her eyes. Her phone rang endlessly, but she couldn't answer. The house seemed to breathe with her panic, the walls pulsing faintly, the shadows stretching. She whispered, "Ava, what have you done?" And from the silence came a reply, soft, almost fond. "I didn't do anything." "You did." The TV flickered once, and Ava's reflection appeared for a heartbeat, smiling through static. Then the screen went black. Night came quietly, almost mercifully. Claire sat in her garden, surrounded by wilted flowers and broken picture frames. The city lights blinked in the distance, cold and indifferent. She held the broken necklace in her palm, the crack in the center glowing faintly like a heartbeat. "I told the truth," she murmured to the wind. "You got what you wanted." A soft breeze moved through the trees, the sound like a sigh. For a moment, she thought she saw her, Ava, standing at the edge of the garden, barefoot, the hem of her dress brushing the grass. But instead of anger, Ava's eyes held peace. She smiled once, small, sad, final. And then she was gone, her form dissolving into drifting white petals that vanished with the wind. Claire closed her eyes, tears spilling down her cheeks. The silence that followed was not empty. It was relief. The world had taken everything from her, but at last the truth was free. And for the first time in years, she whispered without fear, "Goodbye, Ava." A week passed since the news storm faded. Claire no longer left her house. She barely spoke, surviving on tea and silence. Every mirror had been covered, every window draped. But even then, reflections seemed to find her, in water, in glass, in the shine of a spoon. Her mind echoed with half-formed whispers. "You see now, don't you?" And sometimes she'd turn sharply, expecting to find Ava standing behind her. But there was never anyone there. The world had moved on, but she hadn't. Her nights were haunted by the glow of that broken necklace on her bedside table, faintly pulsing in the dark. One night, unable to bear it, she whispered into the silence, "I said goodbye, Ava. Why are you still here?" And the wind shifted, soft, deliberate, as if something had heard her and was waiting for her to look up. It was nearly midnight when she decided to face it. The old hallway mirror, the one she had left uncovered, stood at the end of the corridor, half cracked but gleaming faintly under the flickering light. Her reflection looked different, paler, eyes darker, like someone hollowed out from the inside. She stepped closer, her bare feet silent on the wooden floor. The air smelled of dust and something faintly sweet, like the perfume Ava used to wear. "I'm not afraid anymore," she said softly. But her reflection didn't move. It just smiled, slow and unfamiliar, a cruel twist of her own lips that she never made. Then as the lights flickered once more, her reflection blinked out of sync. And in the split second of darkness, another figure appeared beside it. Ava's. Claire froze. Her chest tightened, eyes locked on the mirror. Ava stood beside her reflection, the same calm expression, the same soft eyes, only now she looked real. Not angry, not vengeful. "Just there," Claire whispered. "What do you want from me?" Ava tilted her head slightly, and for the first time, she spoke, voice echoing as if from both sides of the glass. "Not revenge, understanding." The mirror shuddered, faint ripples distorting their faces. Then Ava reached out, her hand pressing against the glass, and the surface began to crack like ice under pressure. Claire reached forward, too, trembling, her fingertips almost touching. But before they met, the glass shattered completely, 1,000 sharp fragments falling around her like rain. When she opened her eyes, the hallway was empty. Only the broken necklace remained on the floor, its glow fading for the last time. Claire exhaled slowly, her voice barely a whisper. I understand now. And as she turned away, one shard of glass on the floor caught her reflection. And in it, Ava smiled one final time. Pain is a teacher. It humbles the proud, softens the cruel, and awakens those who sleep through empathy. Claire once said pain makes people weak, but she never knew it makes them real. Life doesn't need revenge to make things right. It just needs time. Because time listens, time remembers, and when the heart learns its lesson, it teaches it twice, once through love and once through loss. Ava never sought to destroy her. She only waited for life to show her reflection, and when it did, the silence spoke louder than laughter ever could. In the end, pain didn't just return, it evolved, and both of them learned. Sometimes the cruelest revenge is simply understanding.